James Ernest of the Grueling Truth here with wrestling legend Al Snow. What was it like growing up in Ohio?
Growing up in Ohio, I grew up in a very small town called Lima, Ohio, and pretty much typical of growing up anywhere in a small community. It was never not negative. It was just one of those things. When you're young, you don't realize, because that's all you know, just how nice or how good or how bad it is either way. But it was enjoyable.
Yeah, growing up from there to traveling the world, I can imagine quite a culture shock.
In a lot of ways it was, but, surprisingly, the more that you travel, the more you realize that people are pretty much, no matter where you go, in any part of the world, they're all pretty much the same. They all have the same hopes, the same dreams, the same fears, the same wants, the same needs as you and I do. The belief that just because they live on the other side of the world, that they have some kind of strange ideas of what's right and wrong, or, what needs they have, or, they're exactly the same as we all want to have, security. We all want to be safe. We all want to be able to eat and feed our families and have a good job and be happy. And they all do too.
Tell us about the impact Jim Lancaster had on your career and your life.
Well, Jim Lancaster was the person who trained me, broke me into wrestling, kind of mentored me in those early years, and kind of directed me as to the etiquette and the proper behavior in the wrestling business, which was a very closed, very secular business at that time, and had its very definitively set rules as far as, and standards as far as what was right and what was wrong and how to behave. And I'm very fortunate that I had him to teach me and to mentor me and take responsibility for me and introduce me into the wrestling business. I don't think I would have known or understood things quite as well as I did at the time that I did, as early on, without his help in those areas.
And then the other side of the spectrum, we had one of your students on, about a month or two ago, Dan Severn. And he had nothing but great things to say about your teaching. What kind of student was Dan for you?
Dan was a great guy and a great student. He had such a, athletic background, that helped him immensely. I knew, once I was, I had gotten involved with him and began his training, there was a company that was in Japan that was really very tailor-made for Dan and his prior experience and his athletic background with his extensive career in professional, in amateur wrestling. There was a company named UWFI in Japan that I knew he would be perfect for, and he went there and really kind of got that career started there, and just went from there, took off. The next stop was, of course, UFC, and he was went on to be inducted into their Hall of Fame, and had a great career.
You've wore many hats in pro wrestling: wrestler, color commentator, trainer, road agent, promoter. Which one's your favorite out of them all?
I think my favorite is just being a wrestler. Just getting the opportunity, the chance to just go out there and perform in the ring in front of an audience is was the reason I got into wrestling, and the reason that I still to this day, wrestle is because in the ring is because I just love to do it. Get so addicted to it, The hardest part of it's when all of that's going to eventually come to an end and, uh, go by the wayside as far as, actually participating in the ring. And that day's coming.
I was going to say, you look like you're in better shape now than you were back then. I mean, you definitely can tell you've been hitting the gym. So how longer do you
train completely differently, and have adapted a lot, and trying to reinvent myself, and but it takes its physical toll. Things hurt a lot more, hurt a lot longer, hurt a lot more often, and it's just getting to a point where it's it's time to move on and onward and upward.
You've worked with great minds in in wrestling, Cornette, Heyman, McMahon. What did you learn from them, and what are you going to use, towards your promotion that you're starting?
Everybody had their own vision and their own take and, their own style. But there were so many, so many little bits of information. It'd be way too much to try to, say what I learned from each one of them. But I took so much from each individual and had created so much of a better understanding that will help me with OVW, and I'll probably apply little lessons I've learned from each one of them throughout the years to really have a better chance of success, and a better opportunity to create a platform that allows the talent to truly look like stars, not just wrestlers, but look like an attraction, a star that people want to come and pay to see.
What was your personal favorite moment in pro wrestling?
I don't have a personal favorite. I mean, maybe if I were to pick one, maybe the moment when I came out at the pay-per-view for ECW, and there were, the entire building was full of styrofoam heads, and they were doing the strobe light effect, and it looked like a proverbial snowstorm, like a blizzard was going on out there. Maybe that, but just every opportunity I've gotten to get in the ring and perform has been, really, to be quite honest, has been my favorite moment. I mean, it's just been something that I just so enjoy and love to do, that it's difficult to pick just that one particular moment in time.
Was that when you challenged for the world title against Shane Douglas?
No, that was a match with Lance Storm against Candido and Shane Douglas, and I was the mystery partner.
Oh, yes. Of the different ways of getting into pro wrestling, the Tough Enough, the gut checks, the British boot camps, which one do you feel is the most effective way of scouting actual talent?
Well, all of them were a great way to scout talent and give them an opportunity to be seen, and give them a chance to make an impression, and literally create a career. You know what I mean? And that's every single one of them. The Tough Enough, of course, probably was the best because it was through WWE, and it was on a much larger platform. It was, in conjunction with MPD, which had a massive audience around the world. But British Boot Camp and Gut Check provided those same opportunities as well.
Your book that you wrote, the Self-Help Life Lessons from Bizarre Wrestling Career of Al Snow, what inspired you to write it?
Numerous people have approached me about, wanting, suggesting that I write a book. And I just, personally, I just wasn't motivated because I just didn't feel like I'm that interesting. And, but, they continued to pursue it and pursue me. And I was speaking to Bob Holly, who had just recently wrote a book, an autobiography, and had wrote it with this very talented writer, Russell and Williams, who was able to convey Bob's story, but more importantly, convey it in Bob's voice. When you read the book, you hear Bob's voice, and hear Bob's words, and that was kind of what pushed me over the edge. And I met Ross and spoke to him, and then that just took off from there.
So what is CollarxElbow?
CollarxElbow is a wrestling brand. It basically is like Under Armour is for football and football fans. Nike is for basketball and kind of track and, kind of several other sports, really. Wrestling didn't really have anything like that. MMA had Tap Out. WWE bought the brand Tap Out, but and wrestling never really had something like that. So determined that I wanted to, with my partner, we talked about it and we thought about it and tried to come up with something that epitomized wrestling, which is all wrestling. They'll start with a collar and elbow tie-up, and we decided that we would call it that. That way, if you're a wrestling fan, you get it, you understand it. If you're not a wrestling fan, we try to create designs that just look cool and kind of capture the passion that we have for wrestling as fans, and that we share, and that we can communicate to each other when we wear, the clothing. But we don't have to. You don't have to wear something like, another grown man's face on your chest when you're walking around, like a lot of wrestling shirts are, or some obscure reference or weird design. We try to create the designs or design the clothing in such a way that it just looks like streetwear. It looks like, something you'd see in the mall. And you can wear it anywhere. And if another wrestling fan sees it, they get it, they identify with it, and, they share something with you. But if they're not, then it's not like you have to deal with the, why do you like that, wrestling steak? Well, congratulations. Apparently Angela Lansbury is now going to be worried about her job on Murder, She Wrote, because you are a far better detective and are able to put together the clues. That's something that we all knew for decades. Mm-hmm. Congratulations, Sherlock.
Yeah, it is amazing when people say that, because, the whole...
Like, hey, did you know that magic was fake too? That the Avengers Infinity War was not an actual documentary on an event that happened on Earth? Did you know that? Did you still enjoy it? Why do you care? What does it matter? It's, people have known for decades that, professional wrestling is predetermined. Is it fake? No, it's not. Physically, everything that is done in the confines of that ring are quite physically real. It all takes its toll. But, the term, quote-unquote fake lends itself to the fact that it's predetermined, that the outcome is already known before they go out there, and the intent behind what the guys are doing is fake. And, you have pieced together the puzzle, Clue Master. Way to go.
So tell us about your staff that works for you with CollarxElbow.
My partner, Rod Hicks, and my other partner, Dean Whitaker. Dean is the designer. Dean used to be a professional skateboarder, and is an artist. Rod was a former professional wrestler. Wes handles our IT, the website, and all of the fancy technology stuff. And then I'm basically the face of the company, and then my other partner, David Hero, helps with the marketing and promotion of the brand.
Who are some of your sponsored athletes?
Oh God,
I know it's a long list.
Yeah, that's a long list. And the sponsored athlete, was an idea that we came up with because the biggest hurdle for a upstart company is to market the brand, make people aware of it, make them interested in it without, breaking the bank and spending a lot of money in the meantime. Because you're not going to just have a massive amount of sales right out of the gate. So we created the sponsored athletes, which has worked fantastic, and it's also kind of a way to help young, up-and-coming independent wrestlers that otherwise can't really make a lot of money on their own. They don't have a brand name. They've not been on a big platform to, make that brand name of theirs to where they can sell merchandise on a certain level. And so we combine that with, wrestling superstars like Kevin Nash and X-Pac and Chavo Guerrero, and the list could go on and on and on. And to the point of present main roster wrestlers like Nia Jax and Corey Graves, the commentator, and we supply them with apparel that they then wear, and then on social media they, will take photos wearing it, or have photos of them wearing it, taken, and then tag CollarxElbow. Now, the independent wrestlers, what we do is we have a program where they sign up to be a sponsored athlete, and what we do is they pay $20 because that covers the cost of the very first shirt, the printing, the shipping, and we send them business cards and bumper stickers and such. And we give them a code, a discount code that we have to maintain, which of course costs money. Everything does. And it takes 10% off the purchase price, and then it's up to them then to market themselves and market the brand at the same time. So it's mutually beneficial. And then for every shirt that they sell, that people use their code, which allows them to take that 10% off, which motivates them to use the code. The sponsored athlete gets 40% of the net profit, which is basically $5. Now, $5 a shirt doesn't sound like a whole lot, but when you sell 100 shirts, you've made $500 for doing nothing more than wearing a nice, soft, comfortable T-shirt that you were going to wear anyways. And all you had to do was take a few minutes and post on social media, which you're going to do that anyways, because everybody's obsessed about doing that, and make some money and hopefully help to carry you through on your independent bookings, and maybe pay for some of your expenses and allow you to pursue your career. And if your code's used within the 3 month period that we have in between when we release new styles, then the next time when we release new styles, you get a brand new shirt for free. We ship it out to you so that you can continue to promote the brand and promote yourself. And it's worked great. It's worked really fantastic. We've been able to make the brand very omnipresent in people's social media feeds, and make people very aware of it, and market it without having to spend a tremendous amount of money.
Sounds like a great plan. You all win. The athletes win. It sounds like a great way to do it. I mean, it's not like you were going to sell your clothing line at Walmart, would you?
Absolutely absolutely, we would. It's just going to take. That's the end game. That's the goal, of course, is to get to a big retailer like that. It's no different than when WWE had Steve Austin and he was red hot. And, they were selling Austin 316 shirts, not just in Walmart, but in J.C. Penney's and Sears, and every store in the mall. And Hot Topic is selling, Bullet Club shirts and things like that. The hope is that we will eventually work our way up to that point, to where we can, get a deal like that, where we can, sell T-shirt, sell our clothing line through a major retailer like that. But for now, we're doing very, very well. We're selling all over the world, quite literally. We have customers, all over throughout Europe and into Australia and elsewhere, and Canada and Mexico, and it's doing very well. We're very happy with it.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I can imagine. Like you mentioned, Tap Out. It reminds me of that, how they did with their athletes, and it just kept building, and then it ended up becoming one of the major clothing lines out there. So I could see that happening with your company. Now, I just mentioned Walmart because of your history with Walmart.
Oh yeah. Well, they did me a favor, with banning my action figure, which I'm still on. There's a list of 21 things that Walmart refuses to sell for fear that it is a detriment or danger to society, other than a assault rifle, AR-15, or a hunting knife, or live ammo, pointer rifle. They'll sell those. But I'm number 5 on the list of things. My action figure is number 5 on the list of things they won't sell. I was beat out by Pregnant Barbie. Pregnant Barbie was number 1.
An impressive accomplishment. To get the ire and the dander up of a major corporation like that. But like you said, your goal is to work with them and other great companies in the future to
sure.
with your brand.
And they did they did an awesome job when they banned it, because it sold out everywhere overnight, and at the same time it became a national news event for about a week and a half. So I'm not complaining.
So tell us about the purchase of OVW. What inspired it?
Well, as we've discussed, I have been and always will be a fan of professional wrestling, and deep down at heart, and I love it. And I'm getting to a point where I'm not going to be able to do it as much or as frequently or even at all. And OVW gives me an outlet. Danny Davis, the owner, was ready. He was burned out, ready to retire and to go to Florida and live out a life of leisure, which he's earned. We got to talking, and one thing led to another, and here we are. I'm in the process of acquiring OVW and making the transition, and then I'm looking forward to, building it back up and making it what it once was.
So in other words, you're planning on being very hands-on with it, I would assume?
I have to be, yeah. We'll have to absolutely be. I already am. I haven't even completely taken over, and I'm already being so.
So why is it OVW, Ohio Valley Wrestling, when you're located in Louisville?
Because Louisville, Kentucky is a part of the Ohio Valley. And that was a name that Danny Davis had put on it, was Ohio Valley Wrestling, because of the, Ohio River, and Louisville was actually sitting in the valley.
Excellent. Any chances that when you take over that it'll tour a little wider, maybe Northern Kentucky, Cincinnati, Ohio?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The plans are to, because we once were touring up into Northern Kentucky, into Cincinnati, and the plans are to do that again, very much so, and then go as far north as, Cincinnati, possibly, if I can get the TV broadcast in even further north than that, we will. But Cincinnati will be far enough north, over into Huntington, West Virginia, down into Knoxville and Johnson City, Tennessee, and then, Bowling Green, Kentucky, Nashville, Tennessee, Lexington, Kentucky, Owensboro, Kentucky, up to as far north as Indianapolis if I can. That's all the goal, to eventually get like that.
Excellent. So tell us some of the names on your roster that we should know or will be knowing in the near future.
I would love to, but I don't know all of them yet. I'm still in the process of reacquainting myself with everyone that's there, and the roster itself, and trying to learn the players of the game, so that I can know where to put them and what to do with them, and position them in the best possible way that I can to, ensure their success.
If someone's wanting to go to a wrestling school, do you have any recommendations?
Yeah, I would suggest you go to Ohio Valley Wrestling. We have the wrestling school is still there, and it's staffed with people who have experience. That's the key. That's the one thing you want to look for when you go look anywhere to be taught anything, not just wrestling. If you were to go to a university and you wanted to learn to be an accountant, you'd want an accountant. You would want your professor to not just have a degree in accounting and do well in his class. You'd want your professor to have worked for multiple companies and, had a career in accounting where he made mistakes and learned from those mistakes, and then had an understanding of the information that he was now passing on to you. And in wrestling, it's even more important. It's essential that you find trainers who have actual experience. And I'm not, if you want to be in WWE, then you need guys who have been in WWE to any degree, so that they know what to tell you, so that you avoid the pitfalls that they may have encountered. It's not as simple as just, we're going to take you in there and we're going to just teach you to wrestle. It's teaching you everything about not just what happens in the ring, what happens outside the ring, what happens backstage, and why it all happens, and why you're doing what you're doing to achieve what you want to achieve.
What is the biggest difference between Matt's course and Rip's course with OVW?
Matt's course is a rudimentary beginner's course. It is simply to work on basic mechanics and the physical aspects. Rip's course is to take you and teach you the whys and wherefores of what the physical things are that you do, when to do them, why to do them, and just exactly why you're doing them at that time, for what reason, to get what reaction you want at that moment.
So obviously you've got probably a lot of social media and a lot of websites that you would like to tell us about?
Well, you can go to OhioValleyWrestling.com. It's OVWrestling.com for Ohio Valley. You can also go to CollarxElbowbrand.com. You can use my discount code, which is Snowman, SNOWMAN, that will subtract 10%. It's a 10% discount for any purchase. We just have released some inspired by Army veterans clothing, military inspiration, and a portion of the proceeds from all that clothing goes to the American Legion, which is a incredible charitable organization that's been around for decades, and they help our military men and women who have served for this country in a multitude of ways, and they really don't get the credit that they deserve. And then, if you want to round up your purchase to the next closest dollar you can, and all of that money is contributed to Cauliflower Alley Club, which is also a charitable organization that was created back in the 1950s that helps with former wrestlers and former boxers that are down in their luck. They just recently bought a handicap-accessible van, helped buy a handicap-accessible van for a former wrestler so that he'd be able to get around a lot easier in his later years in life. So, and you can follow me at The Real Al Snow, because yes, there were some fakes, and I would message him and go, look, if you're going to fake being a celebrity, I would aim higher. That would be at The Real Al Snow on Twitter, The Real Al Snow on Instagram, and The Real Al Snow on Facebook.
So before I let you go, tell us about that last weekend, because weren't you just at the cauliflower event?
I just went, we went out and made, showed up at the Cauliflower Alley Club, and at their convention. It's their one and only fundraising event of the year that they hold every year. And it was very enjoyable. It's great to see everyone, and great to see, just exactly what they do and how much they do for the wrestlers. And that, again, CollarxElbow is, because we're all just fans. And, I always say it's not my brand, it's our brand. It shows our love and passion for what we enjoy. And Cauliflower Alley Club, epitomizes that, because they take care of the people that paved the way for us to still have the art of professional wrestling to enjoy.
Thank you for being on the show today, Al.
Thank you very much.